Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar today about Hollowcore in 3D modeling and planning in Impact version 16. I'm Nick, and I work here for StruSoft, and of course today is my honor to host this webinar for you. So actually this webinar is the first webinar that is chosen by you guys. So roughly 2 months ago, that's just before the summer holiday, at least here in Europe, we had this vote about the next upcoming webinar and what, of course, the topic should be. And as you can see, I just took a screenshot from LinkedIn and I posted it here, and you can see that the Hollowcore 3D modeling and planning, it won by 34%. So almost by a landslide. But a little bit followed up, of course, by column and beam. But as the Hollowcore 3D modeling and planning won, this is what we'll be looking at today. So just jumping into a rough agenda, what I want to do today is this is actually the last slide you're going to be seeing, because what we want to do is we want to jump into the software and we want to see how the software is used. Or can be used at least, to give you guys an idea of a little bit like a bird's eye view of how to use both the impact design part, which is actually 3D modeling the Hollowcores. There is some calculation connections to pre-stress. The reason why there's connections is because there are actually two different ones. And of course, we'll be going through some rough and fine planning, including erection sequencing, storage locations, transport, and cast. And lastly, but not necessarily at last, in the presentation, we'll also be looking at a mobile app. So I'll be showing you guys my mobile screen here on the presentation as well, on the screen. So something like a team viewer sharing of the mobile phone on this screen. So what I'll be trying to do is keeping this whole webinar under 1 hour, which means that in the best situation, I'll be finished with what I have to show you guys, what I have to tell you guys within 45 to 50 minutes. And as you can see, the last point that is here, it says Q&A question mark. If there are some questions at the end of the webinar, we can take them there. If you have some questions during the webinar, there's a small question box at your screen where you can write your questions, and my colleague Thomas will try and answer your questions during the webinar as well, so we don't disrupt the flow too much. So all that said, we don't want to spend more time talking. The reason you are at a webinar is, of course, because you're here to see. So this was actually the last slide. So,
hello, Nikolai. One thing, I'm sorry, this is yes. Thomas speaking. We cannot see you. You have your camera on, but it is black. So if you can restart your camera or otherwise close it, because if there is a technical problem with the camera.
Great. Let us try to restart it. Thank you, Thomas.
No worries.
Unable to share your webcam, please close all other applications. So we don't have the webcam running right now, but I'll just jump back. This is how I look. Maybe a little bit longer beard now, but so you can imagine me smiling and waving and all these things in this webinar, of course. Always when you're going live, there might be some technical challenges, but the most important thing is actually not you guys seeing my face, but actually seeing my screen and the software in action, of course. So thank you for that, Thomas. Great. So basically where I am right now, just before I get started, actually, what I want to say is this webinar here, we have approximately 60 people attending, so thank you very much. And we have approximately the same amount of people who asked to get a recording of the webinar after. The main part of you guys that are attending here are people that are new to StruSoft or people that are new to Impact and does not know the software already. So this is how I'll be structuring it to fit you guys that do not know the software already, of course. So I'll go through some basics as well as some a little bit more advanced features, but mostly the basics. Of course, we only have this 45, 50 minutes up to 1 hour here. So what you see on my screen right now is what is called the Impact Project Manager. And right here, what you're seeing, the blank thing in the middle, this is my 3D model. Of course, there's nothing yet because I have not made anything yet. What you see at the bottom is actually some cast planning that is being done today. So you can see someone else has done some cast planning in my factory here and cast planned some Hollowcores. But of course, the cast planning we will get back to once we have actually detailed or modeled our elements. So, as I said, down to business. And here, if you notice, the software I have open here is AutoCAD. So the impact system works on AutoCAD, BricsCAD, or Revit. So depending on your system of choice, you choose what it is you want to work with. My system of choice here is AutoCAD. This is what I'm most used to, which I find the easiest, but pretty much all the features are exactly the same across AutoCAD, BricsCAD, and Revit, because we're still 3D modeling Hollowcores. So if you look here at the top, you can see if you have a great connection, you'll be able to see these texts where it says Hollowcore, Components, General, and Plan. And basically, this is all we need. When we're doing Hollowcore, mostly what we need are these buttons here for the Hollowcores. And then to further bring it down to which buttons we actually need is we always seem to start from the top left here with Draw Hollowcore. So what I have here on my background is an external reference, and I just have a very, very simple one for you because we do not want to steal the attention away today from the star of the show, which is of course the Hollowcore. So we just have some very, very basic XREF here where I can actually put some Hollowcore on. So to draw the Hollowcore, I click up here at the Draw Hollowcore button, and I have all my company's different cross sections here. And for this, I don't need a very big one. It's a small building, so I'll take this 185mm one. And in my case, this has the section 19. But I'll just start at this here and simply just click OK. If you look at the strand pattern here, you can see I can choose some different strand patterns. And when I choose these different strand patterns, it'll change how the strands are aligned, and as well as the pre-stressing force and the quality of the strands themselves. But without further ado, we'll just want to get into modeling these. So what I want to do is I actually want to use points in this case here, I think. So basically just picking and snapping to these different areas in the XREF, and it can be anything. It can be modular lines, it can be no XREF at all, just whatever you have available, of course. And I'm putting a little bit of a support length on the sides that I need to support, and no support length on the ones that I don't, of course. So here I have a layout, and what I can choose to do with this one is I can rotate it in any angle, of course. The easiest is just to keep it on a 90-degree. And you can see that on the model I have here below, I actually have quite a big hole here in the middle. So I want to line that up with the Hollowcore. So for example, if I do like this, it will not align. If I place it here, it will, and I won't even have any cut Hollowcores. But don't worry, we'll get to having a few cut Hollowcores at least afterwards. The only one I have right now is this one. So I simply click enter in this case here, and I see the lines right now. I don't want to see the lines. And you can see here, my Hollowcores are red. And this is because the length of these Hollowcores exceeds the length that I have set to be allowed for that type of Hollowcore. So I'll need to split them. But if someone puts in a ledged beam and some columns here, I'll need to split them anyways, of course. So basically to split these Hollowcore into two, what I'll do is I'll just pick this point here in the middle just to make sure I have the middle of it. Drag this one out to the side, so I'll make sure it covers here. Great. And then I have a little button up here with a scissor on it. So basically what we try to do is, for all the buttons that you use, we try to put a little bit of picture of what it does. And this cuts through the hollow cores like a scissor. So I select this polyline to split them. I have a gap 420 millimeters. I did a little bit of homework, so I know that the 420 will fit with these two lines here. So let's just go ahead with the 420. And now you can basically see that we have the hollow cores divided into two floors or two bays, if you say so. And what I want to do is I want to put this last area on here. And maybe some of you are thinking right now, where are the lifters? Where are the end details if we're doing nip ends and things like that? And don't worry, we'll actually get to that just in a short while. I just want to get my floor ready first. So you're doing the same here with points. This could also be if you have a polyline or something like that prepared, you can just choose the polyline. If it is a simple rectangular shape, you can just choose to make a window instead. So there are multiple options for how you want to work here. So here, when I'm doing these points, I have to guide the software a little bit because it doesn't necessarily know exactly where the elements should be on the walls and so on. So here you can see that this is not good. I can't do a hollow core like this. So basically what you can do is you can set up rules that won't allow you to cut this small pieces here. And you can see the rule I have not set up here. But what I want to do is I want to change the zone where I cut the hollow core to something that fits a little bit better. So getting a little bit more realistic hollow cores here. I might want to call up the client and yell at him and tell, this is not possible, this is bad to have a small hollow core like this long, so on and so forth. But right now, let's just design ourselves out of it. So that's fine here. I can even mirror if I want the cut of the hollow core, or I can of course just apply it here. So now I have a layout of hollow cores here. And as I mentioned before, I have some holes or some recesses that we might call it here. And I was a little bit too fast because I forgot to tell what I was doing there. What I want to do is I want to pick this one up here, draw recess. So now we get into components. And this is if we want to add some stuff, subtract some stuff or something like that, we're using the components. So a hole in this case is regarded as a component. So what I'll basically do is I will do a rectangular cutout. I will have one here, one here. And for this last one here, what I want to do is I want to have a hanger instead. So I select the slab to support, which is the one that I'm cutting. And then I select the supporting slabs, which are to the right and to the left, of course. And then I select what to cut. And then I have some hanger details that I can choose. And of course, I want to choose the one that fits here. So basically here, we've added the hangers. We have the hanger here. And now this hollow core has been shortened. And that is the way we cut this hollow core here. So for these, where you can see these purple boxes here, I want to actually have it subtract the boxes. So right now it's just put in as purple boxes, so I can move them around, I can copy them, I can do whatever I want with them. But what I want to do now is I want to actually add them into these slabs. So we'll first add here. And what you can see now is the outline of the slab will actually follow here. So this is a cut through. The same thing with this one here is also cut through. So before actually adding more detail, for a lot of you, this is how you actually detail your Hollowcores. You cut them straight at the ends and you lift them up with lifting clamps. And in that case, we don't need extra lifters or anything like that. So what I'll do is I'll take these and I'll mirror them. So we have a mirror command here as well. Here we're not using, for example, AutoCAD mirror or BricsCAD mirror or Revit mirror. We're using the impact mirror command because impact understands impact, of course. I don't want to remove the originals. So let me just pick a small area to show what happens then if we want to add lifters, for example, instead. So it might be we take these here and we say that I actually want lifters in these. So we can have it so it will automatically put lifters in the elements. And of course, if you always use lifters, this is what you'll do. In my case here, I use a little bit of everything because, of course, it depends on who we're actually talking to. And now, as I'm talking out to a large group of people, I have to show a little bit of everything, of course. So put in lifters here. As you can see, this one here, it didn't fit with the second row of lifters, but we can always go in and edit how we want the lifters to be placed, for example. In which core. If we put this on automatic, there are also rules that, for example, can put them diagonally instead, so it'll lift properly up and it won't tip over when you lift it. And now we have placed the lifters here. So we have these straight cut elements here. And right now, some of you are probably starting to wonder, didn't he say he was 3D modeling Hollowcores? I'm only looking at a plan drawing. So let's just jump over here to an isometric view. So what you can see here when you look at the plan is that they already have a height, but they're modeled like boxes, and there's not really any detail. It's not really 3D, is it? So what we can basically do is we can take the presentation of the objects, as we call it here, and show it as this 3D solid instead. And here you'll be able to see the cores going all the way through. Everything is shown as this wireframe type of thing, so we can actually see through everything. And you can also see with these lifters here, there are also core fillings with the lifters here that is standardized to be put in this case. But what I'll do is I'll actually bring the presentation back to these rough boxes, because this is the easiest way for me to see everything that I'm doing and the easiest way for me to actually work through this. So now what I want to do is I want to add a little bit more detail to these guys down here. So I select them, and what I actually want to do, I want them to have nipped ends. So I have a list of different end details here. And here I have one with a nipped end, and as well as with actually a recess to get it attached to something else in the wall and the beam that it's attaching to. And let's just pick this one here. So what you can see here is it symbolizes the nipped end. It puts in a recess as well. And we can just keep adding details like this here. So depending on what is it we need, we can just add it, or actually we can standardize it as well to have it add these things automatically. And this one we cut here, so it's probably not that much point to put them in, of course. So now we have some elements. We have some elements up here. We have some more detailed ones down here. It completely depends on the type of Hollowcore that you do in your company. Some of you don't even put recess in the Hollowcores. Some put both round recess and put rectangular recess in. And so there's like a different mix of what each of you guys do. And now when I mentioned a round recess, let's just add one in just for the fun of it. So I'll say I don't want to choose an element, but what I want to do is I want to make a circle. I want to make that circle here. Actually, I want to make it between two elements. So what happens if I do that? We pick these two guys here, we add the hole to them, and basically it's added half the hole to each of them, of course. So it split that one polyline that I did out over these elements here. And basically what we want to do now is, now we need to save the elements. Once they're saved, they're into the impact database, which actually means they'll pop up in this 3D model that I was talking about before here, which is still empty, of course. So you might notice that they all say unmarked. So basically here, we choose them. And as these are Hollowcore, for my sake, I don't care which one starts with number 1. I'll do an erection planning later anyways. So just select all of them. And I'll have the software save them, and it'll start with a number of probably something like HC1. We have it here. And let's just have it start with 1001. This is of course also completely standardizable, how you want these names to be. So we start with HC1001. So what the system is doing right now, it's reading through all of the Hollowcores that I have, and it's matching them up. So all the Hollowcores that are the same, it'll give them the exact same number. So you can see these two HC017, these are exactly the same with this recess here. And the same with number 7, number 7, number 7. 3 that are exactly the same, just next to each other. And in this case, number 5 and number 5, and so on. So let's just check our 3D model out here. So right now I'm just refreshing. Everything gets saved into the impact database, which means that you can share this across your business. And here it is starting to look a little bit more like concrete. So in here, when I'm working here, I want it to be as simple as possible and as easy as possible for me to work in it. And exactly the exact same out here. But the project manager, this is the planner's tool. It's also the drafter's tool, but most of all, it's the planner and the project manager's tool. And what they want to see is they want to see something that looks like real life. So this is the color of the concrete itself. And it's actually, as you can see, detailed with all the recesses, with the holes and the nipped ends in these cases here. So I have the Hollowcores here now. And the last thing I need to do, if I need drawings, and the reason I'm saying if I need drawings is that some of you are sending this out directly to plotters from the casting bed, having data transfers to other systems and so on, and all of that, of course, is possible. But basically what I'll do is I'll just take a few of them. This one maybe, these two, and this one here. So take a little note that right here, 1007, I'm creating a drawing of that one. Later on, when they're created, I'll actually open one of the other ones instead, and it'll open up the same drawing, but with a different ID number. So here I'm just saying, yes, please use my standard Hollowcore template layouts. And about these layouts, you'll see it in a few seconds. So basically it takes 2, 3, 4 seconds for each drawing to be generated. And once it's finished all the drawings, it'll let me know that it's finished. Here we go. And then I can go in and say, I want to open this one, which is the exact same as this one, but it created drawings for all the elements with the same number here. And this I'm looking at here, this is what we call the model view, which basically means this is all parts of the drawing. And when we get into the drawing itself, this is the setup of our drawing. So this element right here is a little bit boring. There's like a strand pattern, and there's a cut, and there's a length, but pretty much that's it. So let's take one of the others instead. Let's take this one, maybe also this one. So you can see here, we can open as many drawings as we want at once, and it's opening up the drawings in new tabs as well. So we zoom in here. Here we have a little bit more. We have a void because I make this as a recess that has this diameter. We actually also have a recess up here that's indented 10 millimeters into the surface. We have some core filling. We have some cast-in items as well. The cast-in item here is 0341. which is a plate called FPL 300-100. If we zoom in a little bit, you can see it here as well, actually. So basically, this gives the people out in the production all the tools they need. And here we can also see in the section that we have some core fillings popping up in core 1 and core 2. But basically, the drawing is finished. All the information that we need is here, and we don't need to do more with it other than actually print it out. Jumping on to the other one we opened, the case should be the same. So you can see here, actually, here we have a little bit more information on the element. But as you can see, as we scale it up gradually, even, you know, no matter how much detail we actually have on the Hollowcore itself, it will just keep scaling up the detail with what we need and what we defined how we want to see it. So in this case here, we have core fillings, we have lifters in, we have the corner or the side indents here. And there's also been set up a rule that if we have these side indents here, we need reinforcement bars across the Hollowcore. So it's added reinforcement bars across the Hollowcore in a certain length and quality. And of course, we're going to list how many of them there are as well. So in this case, we'd probably be very happy to actually have a drawing so we can do this Hollowcore correctly out in the production hall. So one last thing I want to do before actually jumping over to the erection planning and the planning part, because basically we're finished with the drawing here. You can do anything you want, any shape you want. You can change any shape of the Hollowcore that you want as well. And just to symbolize a little bit how you can do, now we'll just go next to the building here. Let's say I do window here. This is my Hollowcore. And we have a client who has a weird shape for his building. He has something like this here. So basically, again, the buttons up here do what they look like they do. So we take the slabs. I just missed the Hollowcore, the polyline, sorry. We pick the polyline. Should we trim and extend the right side? Yes. Should we trim or extend, or should we do both? In this case, some of them should be trimmed, some of them should be extended. I'll select both. And these here, these are just lines from the floor itself. But now you can see now these Hollowcore are actually getting cut with this perpendicular cut at the end. So any shape you want here. The only thing we cannot do is rounded Hollowcore as a standard, though you will maybe need a polyline with a little bit more edges, but this is not often we see that, of course. So I'll remove this again. This was just to show a little bit about the shape itself. And now we've done some basic drawings here. And I don't want to spend more time on everything that I absolutely need to, but one more thing that we want to do is we want to add a little bit more elements here. And in my case here, I have a building which has 4 floors. So in this case here, I'll just copy the elements. And I'll copy them up and I'll increase the number. Here I don't want them to have the exact same number. And I'll let it copy the drawings as well, actually. So I'm copying them up here. And it takes 2 or 3 seconds to copy a floor. And of course, the model here needs to reload. So I actually can see the new floor here as well. Here we go, so it's reloaded. So now we have 2 floors instead. If I double click floor 2, it only shows floor 2. If I double click floor 1, it only shows floor 1. If I jump back into my drawing here, this is basically what I'd use as a general arrangement drawing, put some measurements on it and so on. But in this case here, I have 2 buildings that are the same. So what I want to do is I actually want to copy this one building here, and I want to copy it out so I have another building. So I actually have 2 buildings in this case. So right now we're looking at elements on top of each other, as you can see here. And then how do I actually make them into another building? Really simple. We simply copy it. like this here. I might want to even rotate it. So let's say we have two buildings on a site. We could show the site underneath here as well. And what I do is I just say, please update this plan. And it'll show me there's a lot of elements that are not saved into the database. And one thing I want to do before saving them into the database is I actually just want to indicate to the software that these elements up here, they actually belong to building number 2. There we go. So we put them to building number 2. And it will register them all on that building here. We say, please exit. And then we say, okay, now you're allowed to actually save these elements here. So there we go. We jump back to our model, update it again, just to make sure we have everything with us here. The reason why I am clicking update is because we do not want the software to sit and update all the time itself. It'll update every second otherwise, and we are of course not interested in that. But as soon as I want to check if I have something new, I simply click update. So if I double click the model here, you can see I have actually 2 buildings. So I spent roughly half an hour detailing Hollowcore now. I don't want to spend more time on that because what I want to do is I want to spend a little bit of time planning. And here, just to simplify it a little bit and make it easy to follow, I'll just isolate floor 1, building 1 in this case here. And what I want to do now is I want to set the erection sequence of the elements. And I can do this by clicking on the elements one at a time, or I can do it by selecting as many as I need. And in this case, to keep it simple, we're just selecting this is the order that it needs to put them up in. I go to my erection planning in here in the project manager. I add the elements. I have an erection sequence. I might even have an erection date that I can actually set now. And we can set that erection date to, whenever we need to erect them, 25th of November in this case. I can even add a crane as well. There are a lot of things that you can do in the software that I won't be exactly showing today, of course, as we only have a limited amount of time, and we cannot sit here and have this live webinar for days and days, of course. But you're very welcome to contact us if you want to know more about some of it, of course. So I won't erection plan more than just this little part here because, as I say, it's easy to follow. It's like taking a little bite of it and showing how does the rest work. And of course, we can just add from there. So right now, I want to simulate an erection sequence. And what I do is I press the play button. And you can see here that now it's simulating that erection sequence that I actually chose before. So usually this you use when you sit together with your client, you sit together with the erection crew or whoever actually needs to know this information, and you go through it. Does this fit? What do we have availability of cranes and so on and so forth? And if it does, well, that's great. If it doesn't, then you just change it up. So if I go in here, I'll go into something called element ID. And basically this is showing me the exact same thing as I'm seeing in the model, showing me these Hollowcores on floor 1 in building 1. It shows here the element ID itself and the mark for the element, which can be the same, and the ID is always unique. All the elements have a status of 0 in this case. This is because I haven't done really any planning. I have only planned the erection date. So now when we have the actual erection date, we can use the erection date to plan the production date. We can use it to plan the delivery date. And in this case here, I'm actually going to use it to plan the production date, which I have right here, of course. And if you look at these plan dates, You can see there's like a plan drawing date, plan production date, storage date, and so on. If I look at the end here, I have production date, no longer planned production date, but the actual production date, the actual erection date. And these things will be automatically filled by the software as soon as we produce the elements or as soon as we erect them on site, for example. But just for the ease of it here, we can take the planned production dates, do planning here. We can change date. We change the production date using, we change the planned production date. We use the planned erection date, and we say we need to produce the elements 10 working days before, for example. Maybe it's 20 working days before. Which basically means in this case, we need to produce them by the 28th of October, sorry. And we're putting them up the 25th of November. But we can work our way all through this like this. But I'm not spending too much time in here because you can't really see what I'm doing except just putting some dates on. And to me, honestly, I think that's boring. I want to see what I'm doing instead. I want to plan in 3D like I promised at the beginning of the webinar. We want to see everything in 3D, of course. So basically, we use the planned production date to see what is the latest we need to produce this element, or how can we produce the element so it fits the best, of course. So now I have these elements here, and I have an erection sequence on them. And what I want to do is I want to plan my trucks as well. I want to plan my stacks for my trucks. And I can do this before I plan the cast itself, or after I plan the cast, whatever style suits you and whatever style suits how you work in your company, of course. So in this case here, I will select, for example, these elements. So you can select them one by one again, or you can do like this. And I will ask the system to auto stack for me using a Hollowcore stack template. So now the system, it will auto stack, but how does it know what I want it to do? This I can choose up here. So either we need to stack them in the erection sequence or the erection sequence reversed. It depends if you stack them twice or if you only stack them once when they go to storage. If you stack them twice, you need the erection sequence. If you only stack them once, you need the reversed. The whole point is, of course, to when you lift it off the truck, it needs to go directly on to the building. So we take the erection sequence reversed. But noticing here, we have some elements that are not the same size as the other elements. The software, it will plan them according to the rule that I gave to it. So you'll see soon that these will hopefully be placed not too good, because that's what I want to do. I want to show you how to fix it. And then again, I have a load date and I have a delivery date. If I had rough planned these dates like I did with the casting date before, these would be filled out with the rough planning dates instead. But as you can see here now, it says the 4th, which to me in this case is actually perfectly fine because I can easily squeeze these into my production. So I click OK here. The auto stack is done. And it has made a few stacks. It has made 3 stacks. And again, this is depending on how much can I actually fit, how much can it weigh maximum, and so on. But we can see 2 of them. If we look down here, at the bottom left, this will not work. Maybe it will if we put like a stick or something in here, but basically I don't want to do this. So I just move it up, and I have to move it up because otherwise I risk breaking everything else, of course. So even if this does not fit completely correctly with the erection, it fits with the transport. And I think one of our colleagues at one point told me that once you go out to the site, these planned transports never fit. But by doing this here, having this visual stacker, as we call it in Impact, we make sure that it always fits instead. So we can see if something is wrong, we can see if something is not possible, so we can move them up and down and whatever is needed. And in the case of this one, it was fixed within a matter of seconds, of course. So let me just choose these ones as well and get them on some stacks. We'll auto stack these ones also. We'll still use the erection sequence reversed. So here we go. So right now, all of my elements are green. But there's one thing about Impact that's nice, and that's the colors. You can see down here, I have some stack numbers, which are ranging in some different colors. And up here, I have a little button called Element Color. If I choose Stack, I can see exactly what stack which element fits to just by looking at the color of the elements themselves. So I won't put these ones on a truck just yet. What I want to do is I actually want to set them to be produced or to be actually cast. So I jump into my cast planning here, select today. Even though here for me it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I will pretend that I have time to actually produce them, because once I have produced them, I can put them on a storage yard. So in this case for me, basically I can just do like this. And I can do like this, saying that I don't want to use Hollowcore line 1. I want to use 2, 3, and 4. And I know that all of these Hollowcores are the type 19 with the same strands. So this is how they work. So the question is then, how do I want to cast them? Do I want to cast them the erection sequence reversed? Do you want to cast them by the size? So you have some different options. How do you want to optimize your casting beds? And in this case here, I'll just use the erection sequence reversed again. So this is one way of doing it. Another way is just, again, simply just by picking the elements, just by taking them. Let's go to floor 2 just to show you. So let's say that we'll continue casting an element like this. We just drag it down to the casting bed. And I'll just take one more because you had no chance of seeing that on a small screen. So we'll take this one here, we'll move it down. So notice that these elements here are gray, while the other ones on floor 1 had all these fantastic colors. And this is because the color is the stack. There's no stack planning on floor 2 yet. But if I, for example, go in and choose the color as cast, now you can see these are green because they're planned for cast. I can also do in and select the color as status. And status is in Impact, it means where are we with this element right now? So I have basically a list of different statuses with different colors. So yellow means planned for production. If I go to floor 1 here, it still says planned for production. So it'll move up according to where I am in the phase right now and where I am with my project right now. So these elements here we planned, as you can see, there are different holes here, and I can go in and optimize this, maybe to save a little bit of concrete. In my case here, I actually want it to be like this because I know that the easiest way for me to actually get this stacked, get this out to site, and get this out on storage, of course, is to do it like this here. So we take this one here, we right-click on it, and we set the status to produced. Setting the status to produced means that this will be orange. If I update the model up here, perfect. This is a live webinar, so we have something happening there. What I'll do is I'll just open it up again. Great. So that's the one rule, isn't it? Of when you're doing something live, you always know that something's going to happen here. So basically, I'll just go in and open up the project again. Great. So here we are back again, selecting the element color as stack. We just jump back to our cast planning. We jump over to our detailed view again. We say, I would like to see today. I would like to see my factory. So you can see here, as I'm jumping through this, I actually have multiple factories and different casting units and a lot of different settings. How many days do I want to see at once and everything? But of course, I want to keep it as simple as possible so we can actually follow it through here on this short amount of time, because already now we're actually running out of time. So right now I want to see my status. So you can see there are some elements that are orange. And the orange elements are the ones that I set to be cast already. So basically these are cast. We want them to go out on a stack and we want them to go out on the storage yard. But one thing I want to do before actually ending out on the storage yard is I want to save some paper. And you might think, what does he mean by saving paper? And in this case, by saving paper, I mean, I want to do my element control, but I don't want to print out hundreds of sheets of A4 paper to check out the length, to write in, to put in a folder, to save for 10 years. I want to do it here digitally on the software. So the only thing I actually need to do here is right click, add an element control, and it'll add element controls according to which ones I choose. And you choose whatever you have set up. So I have something set up here called a pre-production control. And as you can see now, I already produced them, so it's too late for the pre-production control. So let's take the measurement control. And what will happen is that in my case here, status with a number of 50 and a color of orange, that means that the element has been produced. But in my case, there is a difference between produced and approved. So I need someone to approve this before I actually send it out to the customer, or before it's ready to send out to the customer. So right now here, we are in the calendar, we're in the cast calendar, where I can see as many weeks as I want. And, oh, sorry, we'll just put it down there again. I can see as many weeks as I want and set it up how I want to show it. And what this does is it shows the entire factory, all projects, of course, at one time. So that's why you can see I actually had something that was planned before. But back to the control. So you can see out here, if we look to the left, here's a list of the elements. Of course, the list of the elements is exactly the same as seeing the elements in 3D, but less visual. So here we have these element controls. And we have one element here. I select it here. It's being selected up here. This usually you would have someone out in the factory hall doing with a mobile phone. I've decided for this webinar, I'll only do one thing with the mobile phone, so I do not have to change back and forth between a screen and a mobile phone, because it simply just becomes confusing. So we want to keep it as clean as possible. So we take this one, we right click on it, and we say, what is it that we want to actually do? We want to perform an element control. So here the management has been so kind as to actually put in a picture, what does width and length mean in a Hollowcore? And I don't think anyone is doubting that, but in this case, this is how they want to measure it out. You can see we have a design value over here, both of the length and the width, and we have an actual value. So for example, if we say that the length is 1 millimeter more and the width is 2 millimeters less, maybe even 3. Let's see if we can push the tolerance a little bit. 7. So you can see now this is orange here. I have a tolerance of plus minus 2 millimeters. If I then go in and say the length is okay, it will say who said the length is okay, when did they say the length is okay. I'm the impact user admin in this case. The width is also okay. It will say, whoa, take a minute here. It exceeds the tolerance. Are you sure you want to continue? And I say yes. So I take a decision that this is okay, even though it exceeds the tolerance. Is the element intact when demolding? Yes. And here you can add as many controls as you want, of course. We press save here. And now the element control is done. So we simply close it down. If I go in and look, we can see this element control is green. So that is perfect. So I can see the element change color as well to purple. What does purple mean? Purple means produced and approved. So that is great here. So now I've produced some of my elements, and let's just actually produce the rest as well. Set status as produced, because then the last thing we'll do here for today's webinar is I will connect the mobile phone application. So let's find the stack that we made so nice before. We have it here. So this is the stack we trimmed. Now we want this stack to actually go out to the storage yard. And there is a whole area that I haven't pointed out right now here in Impact, or there are more than one, but this is reporting from the software. And I might what I want to do is just show a little bit of it. And I could see that some of the questions that Thomas is answering, for example, depends on how do we get something out to a Hollowcore plotter. Basically, click here, right click, export to a plotter. That's it. Depending on which plotter you have, if it connects directly or if we need to do a little bit of work. But basically it's the same if we want to print out some data. Right click, do we want to print out a cast plan, an element label, whatever do we want to print out? An element label would be needed, for example, if you use the mobile phone to do this element control. And usually, of course, we print out element labels for each single element and put them on the elements anyways. So, but instead of showing you 50 different reports, I'll just show you one that I'll actually use as well. So here we print a stack planning with a picture. And this stack planning here, this will have a QR tag that I can actually scan with my phone. So here, what it does is it says, this is the order you need to stack in. And this is the way it needs to look when you're finished. So, so what we're trying to do is we're just trying to make it as easy as possible for everyone to know what it is they need to do. And this report, again, you can set it up however you want to set it up. And however you want it to look with your own logos and so on. So you can see there's a QR tag up here. And I want to scan this QR tag with my phone. So what I'll do is I'll just connect to my phone now. So just give me like, I don't know, 20 seconds, 10 seconds. Let's see how long it takes. So right now, what you can't see is that I'm writing on my other screen here on the computer. And now I'm allowing TeamViewer to take over my phone. And I'm allowing it to share the screen on my phone. So let's see if we can actually trim this down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So there we go. I'm opening up the app. Now I'm clicking with my finger so you won't see it. And I'm opening up this app here. And what I want to do is I want to imagine that I am the person right now who is actually driving this element stack on a lift out in our storage yard. And in my case, what I'm imagining here is I'm the one who decides where it needs to go. But of course, everyone else needs to know where it goes. So now I'm just showing you a picture because of course I don't have a storage yard here, but here I have a picture of how it can be done from one of our customers here. So basically what they're doing is they have this QR tag printed out for each of those storage locations. And it can look something like this. So if we put the focus back on the mobile phone here, you'll see that now I selected the whole stack. It says stack number 182. And what I can do is I can click this scan button again here. And now you can see this is the office that I'm sitting in right now and my fantastic view of the roof. So what I've prepared is a little bit a storage location just here by my bookshelf. And maybe it went so fast that you didn't even had time to see it. So I'll just, from the bottom up, here we have the bookshelf, storage location 1. And you'll now see that all these elements, they change color and they change status number as well. So now the status is called 70 instead. And the storage locations, I could just show with my mouse here, the storage location is set to storage number 01. So now I have the elements on the storage. And basically, once we actually transport and deliver them, it's the exact same thing that we'll do. So I'll just shut down for the mobile here. The mobile can be used, as I mentioned, for a lot of things. One of them, which is this, of course, setting it on a storage location. Let's just open up the project manager again and say that, let's just take a couple of these stacks here. We might as well just take all of them, put them on a truck, say okay. So depending on your setup here, depends on how you get it on the truck. So now you see, now it has a transport. I go to my transport planning. And I have some different trucks. So this is a picture of something that I tested before, but now we can see here. So in this case here, these two stacks of elements, the red stack and the yellow stack, we go back, we check the stack colors, the red stack and this yellow stack here, they can even fit behind each other on the truck here. What we can also do is we can also trim it even more. We can say, put this on the side, put this over here. Now we have room for even more, assuming that we don't exceed the weight, which we actually already up on a usage percent of 90% of the allowed weight on this truck here. But of course, it depends on how much your truck can actually take, and the same with the size of the truck itself. But here you can see them, of course. So the same here, if I right click, I print out a transport planning instead, for example. And we'll have the exact same thing with a mobile phone. I won't connect to the mobile phone again. It's the exact same thing that we need to do. So we don't want to do too much back and forth. But here we have the QR tag as well. The truck driver, when he delivers it on site, scans the QR tag, says, now it's actually been delivered on site. We even have maybe one more guy who scans the QR tag of the element labels and says these elements are erected. So it can be as detailed as you want. So now I talked about there were some things that I didn't do, some things that I forgot to do. And one thing I'm thinking of right now is that I completely forgot the calculations, which I seem to always do. So we'll go 2 minutes above time, and I hope that is okay with you guys, but because I really want to show you how easy the calculation part can actually be for these Hollowcores, or the calculation check, are these okay, are they not okay? Do we need to do more calculation on them and so on? So you can see I have a tab up here called calculation. I have modules. I want to switch on the calculation module. When I switch that one on, you can see now suddenly we have a calculation status over here. I go back to this home. I have a calculation view. What do I want to do is I want to open floor 1 in the calculation view. So now I have the stack colors here. And again, I choose the colors and I change it to calculation colors instead. Now everything is gray. So let's just take these 3, for example, and we'll have the software calculate. So in this case here, it links up with our software called Prestress. And in the project manager here, we're limited to quite a few load cases with surface loads on them. This is one of the 2 things you can do. So let's just take rooms in residential buildings and houses here. And basically I want to start the calculation. And now you can see here to the right, it's running through the calculation. It's taking the sections of these Hollowcores and it's putting them into pre-stress, putting in all the information about the stresses. Now you can see pre-stress open right there, minimized again, because we don't want to see what it's doing. It just needs to do it for us. And once it's done actually calculating through these sections and seeing if it holds or not, it'll throw some information back into impact here and make them either green or red. And of course, green means good, red means bad. So let's see what these come back with. They are so small that hopefully they'll come back with a green. So what it even does is it saves a report for me here, where it gives me like the key information of it, and it'll also do some warnings on some comments here. If I go back to the calculation view, I can see that these are green right now. If I really want to, if I have my apartment engineer, he really needs to calculate something, what you can do is you can open up this selection directly in Pre-Stress instead. And it could be as one element, this could be more elements, it could be the whole floor, whatever you want. But right now it's exporting the data out into the Pre-Stress software. And basically we have 3 elements in Pre-Stress with these different here, as you can see here, the different sections that we have in these 3 elements, and you can continue the calculation part in Pre-Stress. I won't do anything here, as this is not what the webinar is about, and I'm going over time already, and there is one last thing I want to show you guys, of course, before we round this up. And that is what I mentioned at the very beginning, is why did I say calculations instead of calculation? Because this is the very, very, very least advanced form of calculation we can do at all, like putting a standard load on. We don't want to think about anything else. Maybe we open it in Pre-Stress and do some details there. But what if we have something in between? Something in between this very, very simple thing and the very advanced thing of actually looking at the Hollowcore itself inside this advanced calculation software. So if I jump back into actually my drawing here, what I'll do now is I'll just have a look at this from the right side, and I'll just remove the second floor and just say erase none. So I'll just remove these floors from the drawing. And here I have my floor. So what if I could draw my loads directly onto my floor? Wouldn't that be easy? Maybe not. But that's at least the case with what I can actually do here. Because, for example, I have these supporting slabs over here. They'll have a point load. So why not add a point load? What I do is I click the point load button up here. For those of you who are very quick, notice that I jumped over to a tab called calculation. Click this one here, add point loads, here and here. Maybe I have a wall above that is standing directly on the Hollowcores. This is like a gypsum wall, it's not so heavy. That wall will be placed here. And of course I have some surface load as well. And the surface load, if it's the whole surface, I can actually just do like this. I don't even have to think of it hitting the right place. It depends on what I'm calculating, of course, but here I can do whatever I want with that load. So right now I've split it into 3 instead, into point loads, into line loads, into surface loads, which is already much more advanced than what I could do with the other one. What I can also do, if I click this button here, you can see that right now I only did 1 load combinations. For those guys of you that are a little bit more technical, I only did the final stage one, but I included the line load, the point load, and the surface load, as well as with some specific combination of load cases here. The load combinations themselves come from in here, where we can actually see the load combination. And I won't dive more into this exact load combination either, but of course it can be changed to whatever you want, reset to what we have as standard, and so on. So basically now we have a little bit more to work with. And I click the calculator button up here, calculate, and I select the elements I want to calculate. And I take this whole floor here. So right now you're seeing I'm clicking yes to a report file, and I'm copying the what's it called? I almost said the address of the report file here, but the file location at least here, right? And here I can calculate and import just as I did in the project manager. I can also import some results from another calculation, or I can export just like I did before into Pre-Stress. But here I want to calculate and import. And the same case here applies as with the project manager itself. The project manager lights up green. I'll just go back to the project manager. You can see it's just going through the calculation here. It lights up green if it's okay. It'll light up red if it's not okay. And we have this little calculation report here. What is it that was not okay, for example. But jumping back into here, where we're running this calculation here. Now we have a little bit more elements, and there is 10 sections in each element. So it's going through quite a lot of iterations. Even so, it's already finished with all the calculation, and it imported the data in. So we'll just click OK. So what you can see here is that we have some blue text, and the blue text means pretty much the same as if the element is green or not. And it just gives you some key results here. The point is that these two, MR, VSVR, they cannot exceed 1, of course. But we're nowhere near that because these elements, of course, are so short. So that is another way of actually calculating it. And the third way, which we do not jump into, is this where you actually import it or export it out into the pre-stress software, of course. Ending off as a note that what I've shown here today, I've shown everything from within the project manager. We did a couple buildings, a couple floors in each building, and I did a planning of a small part of it just so we could follow along with the planning as easy as possible here. Hi guys, Nick from StruSoft here. Thank you for watching this recorded live webinar. If you want to know a little bit more about StruSoft products, or maybe even Hollowcore in particular, like the video you just watched, please go to www.strusoft.com, where you can find out more about all of our products, of course. So it is www.strusoft.com, and I'll see you there.